Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Today we have a special guest, World Nation, and my co-host, Westside Capability. Where are we going to wait for more people coming in? One people's coming right now. Okay. First we're going to ask you, um, tell me, tell all about you. How you well, how you started with the how you get into the YouTube business? How do you become an auditor? You know?
Yeah, yeah. I started off by watching Jeff Gray and Joel Chandler and a couple of other folks that were doing audits back in the day, and I was already getting familiar with some of the legal books and stuff. So I
Mhm.
figured that this would be a good way for me to get out and ask the government questions and see what was actually going on. um because obviously we can all see that there's stuff going on in the government. Everybody hears the stories of corruption and stuff, and
Mhm.
so I wanted to kind of look into it myself, and realizing that the free press gives us the right to look into our government. That's what I decided I'd like to do. There were some pretty horrific incidents down in Florida that helped propel me to, think that maybe the government wasn't the best person to watch over the government. But um, yeah, that's pretty much how I started. That's how I got my start. I just picked up a camera and went out there, um, by myself back then because there wasn't a lot of people in Florida going around doing it at the time. So I started off doing a lot of solo work.
Well, hey, what do you what do you hope will change? Um, why do you what do you hope will cup will change? Do you think cup will change? Or the cup will be the cup will be the cup? How would you think the cup will do in the future? Will it change? Will it be nice to the auditors, or they'll be the same in the future?
You know, Change is a slow moving dinosaur, I guess you could say. So I don't know if there's going to be change in my lifetime, but I know that change has to start somewhere. And the somewhere that it has to start is by educating ourselves and our kids about our rights and about the government's, responsibilities and obligations to us. Um, and then hopefully, that knowledge will continue to spread. And, maybe in my kids' lifetime, we'll have cops that actually respect people's rights and such. Because this didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like we woke up one day and all of a sudden they were just like, yeah, F rights, we're gonna, abuse people. It's happened over time, and any change to reverse it is naturally going to have to happen over time. So, but I think we've made a good start, and I think we're heading in the right direction. And every day that I'm online, I see more and more people that are standing up for themselves and are you know, asking the tough questions and
Mhm.
getting it on evidence. Go
Okay.
ahead.
If you could pick anyone in history living now to interview, who would it be?
Patrick Henry.
Explain me why. For the audience.
And can you let us know who he is?
Yes.
Yeah, Patrick Henry was one of the founders. during the Revolutionary period. He was famously quoted as saying, "Give me liberty or give me death." But when the Constitution came around to be ratified, he wrote a different speech, and that speech is called "Give Me Liberty or Give Me Empire," or "Liberty or Empire" is what the name of the speech is. And he gave it to the Virginia legislature during the ratification of the Constitution. And he brought up a lot of good points that, looking back at now, we see that he was almost clairvoyant in what he was talking about as far as giving the government as much power as we did in the Constitution. So I would definitely love to interview him and what his thoughts were at that time, as far as how the government could, um, take away our rights and have us under this yokel that they have us under now. Because he obviously knew that that was coming. He didn't sign on for the Constitution. He couldn't believe that people would be so willing to give up their freedom to a central government like that when we just fought against the king. But
Mhm.
it's a very interesting speech, and he's a very interesting man. At least what I know of him.
You have anything to add on West Side?
No, not right now. I don't. I mean, I can ask a question, I guess.
Yeah. You want to answer some questions for
I
him?
can
That
ask one. Do you speak any other languages?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Oh wow, don't feel bad. I don't speak the same. I only speak one language.
Yeah, yeah. My buddy writes Crispy. He's my interpreter. So if I
Nice.
need someone to speak another language, I ask him to help me out. He
I would
speaks
do
like
the
4 or 5.
same. Yep. I would do the same. He would definitely be my interpreter.
Me too.
It's
Has
really
and
interesting when we go out together and he sees people from other countries and stuff, and he'll start chatting with them in their language. It's pretty interesting. He's a friendly guy. He makes friends easy.
Nice.
okay. Has an altitude. What are your goals? What you want to do as an altitude in the future?
My goals are just to make sure that the government respects our rights when we're out in public recording. And if they don't, then it's up to me to either teach them through repeated visits or through litigation or something of that nature. So, um, with that, I can say I'm happy that I've had quite a few successes in that area. Um, so that's always a plus for me. Um, and it's also, when we win one of these battles, when one of these agencies realizes that we're allowed to go in with cameras, now it's open for any citizen who has issues with that agency to go in and redress them, or try to get answers to their questions and
Mhm.
actually be able to document it. Because for so long people have been getting the shaft by the government, and when you go to court or you try to file a complaint, if you don't have no evidence, they're not going to give a damn. And even with evidence, most of the time they still don't give a damn.
Right.
So, but without evidence, you're definitely not ever going to get a fair shake. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's just the way it is. So I mean, the more people that realize this, I mean, the better. I mean, even bootlickers probably have dash cams. You know what I mean? Like, people realize this, I'm sure.
Um, are you do you ever when it was um young or after when you get from high school, do you ever join like the military, the army, or anything like that?
No, actually, I was a troubled youth, and I got into a lot of trouble when I was younger. I I never went the path of the military, so um, yeah, there's that.
And I know you got arrested and you went to jail and said, how is the jail is is the cops treating nice when he was in jail, or they're treating it bad, and how is it was the inmate the the, the inmates inside the jail, are they nice to you?
But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just people, you know. So if you get along with people, then you usually get along with, with anybody. So there's never really been an issue with that. The guards, some of them are decent, other ones are just total assholes. It just depends, and how you catch them and what mood you catch them, The guards usually, in my experience, you have more to be worried about from the guards than you do the other inmates, right? So um, that's an issue sometimes, but not usually in jail. So, but with jail, you sit around, you watch, TV or play board games or whatever it is they got going on there, newspaper, whatever, and just a really slow time of passing the time away until your court date or until you get, shipped up the road if you're sentenced or whatnot, So, but I don't recommend it for anybody. I don't think auditors have to go to jail or even need to go to jail. I think we can document violations without having to risk going to jail because people are getting convicted all the time.
Mhm.
And, this is exactly what they want. They want us behind the eight ball, I guess you could say, with being convicted and having to, fight the charges and, maybe doing probation and such like this when we don't need to. We can easily document the violations and sue later if we want, or we can just, again, continue to revisit until their legal department understands, what the issue is and what's going to happen. So,
Yes.
Do you have any questions for him, West Side?
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any Supreme Court cases you're watching right now?
none that I'm
Or,
watching
or
right
recommend?
now. Yeah, none that I'm watching per se right now. Um, there was a couple of First Circuit cases a few weeks back, maybe a couple of months back, that I highlighted on my channel that was of interest. And, Long Island Audit's case up in the Second Circuit is definitely of interest. Um, we've got mine and Foshin's Social Security case that's of definite interest to us that's coming up this Friday.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um, so. I did end up losing my one of my lawsuits in Dothan recently. It was before the 11th Circuit, and we did oral arguments right before Thanksgiving, and the judges came back and they ruled against me, and they reversed the district court's decision to strip the officers of qualified immunity. So, pretty much lost that case, but unlike what the trolls would like to believe, I'm not unhappy with the outcome of the case because we took it pretty far. It didn't cost me, I don't think, really anything because I file indigent, and it doesn't really cost me to file anything. And it probably cost them like $20,000 to $30,000 to defend the lawsuit. It took like 4.5 years. So I'm definitely more than happy with the outcome because, part of the issue that uh, we have with the officers is that a lot of people will tell officers that they're going to sue and then they don't sue. And so then the officer, when they hear that, then they kind of build up a tolerance, right? Like, oh, everybody says they're going to sue,
Mhm.
nothing ever happens.
Right.
So when somebody like me pops along, or J Town, or any one of us other guys pop up and, say, hey, we're going to sue you. And sure enough, we end up suing them. Then it starts to weigh on their conscience, because now they got to think, hey, if this guy sued, anybody else could possibly sue me. You know what I mean? So now again, it's just a deterrent. It's not a 100% fix, but it can, stick into their mind that maybe I need to brush up on this, or, pay more attention to this. Before I'd even started my lawsuits in Dothan, Alabama, the police department and the sheriff's department had already instituted First Amendment training for their officers. So I didn't even need to sue in order to get the change that we actually want. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the suing
Mhm.
was more, again, as a deterrent to the officers that, you know, it's not always going to be that you violate somebody and you get away with it. You know what I mean? Or even if you get away with it, that you don't have to fight to get away with it. You know what I mean? So,
Yes. What? I don't know if you heard what's going on in New Jersey, all about banning the flag. What do you think about it? What do you think what's going on banning the flag in New Jersey?
well, I actually interviewed a city councilman from that town, Edison, New
Mhm.
Jersey, just last week. I think Sunday I had his interview on. But the mayor there's out of control. Some of the city council people are out of control.
I agree.
And the city councilman I talked to, he's going to be running for mayor next year, this year coming up, and I think it would behoove the people in that area to get that guy in, because I got to be honest, I don't usually like many politicians, but this guy I think is actually somebody that's for the people. He's stepped up numerous times, and fought for Jersey Watchers' rights, because Jersey Watchers from that town, or he lives close by that town. Um, so um, I think it's a travesty, but that kind of stuff's going on all over the country, like literally all over the country. You have
Yeah.
city councils and mayors and stuff that are just out of control. They were talking about, when I was talking to the city councilman from Madison, New Jersey, he was talking that the mayor had a security detail of police officers, that escorted him around town, sort of like that Tiffany Hainyard in Dalton, Illinois. It's becoming like this new fad now, where these mayors claim that there's, people that are threatening them, and they take and use the police officers on the taxpayer's dime as some kind of security force, like they're Jay-Z or Beyonce or something. It's
Yep.
just it's getting so out of hand. I don't know.
It is.
Well, and you would think they would be doing stuff for the community, not for themselves at this point.
Right, like it, I mean, call me stupid, I guess, but isn't like being assassinated part of like the risks of being a politician? Sort of like if you're a cab driver, you risk being robbed and mugged, or if you open up like a retail store, isn't one of the risks of opening a retail store theft, petty theft, shoplifting? Like there's risks in every position that you hold in life, no matter what it is. There's always risks. So when you're a politician, and especially a mayor of a small town, I don't want to be hearing about threats to your life and you need a security detail. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, and not to sound cold-hearted, but I mean, you're replaceable, right? You're not the president. We don't need to assign Secret Service to you because some loony said, he doesn't like your policies, or whatever. I mean, can you imagine the cost to the public if we had to give a security detail to every city, council member and mayor and county council? You know what I mean? Like it's stupid. You know, like take the criticism or don't. If you don't like the criticism, don't do the job. It's pretty straightforward, I would assume.
Right.
I mean, again, that's just me. You know what I mean? That's just like being a policeman or being a soldier. Don't become a soldier and then say, well, my safety's an issue. Well, why didn't you become a baker? you know,
Right.
like,
I mean, right.
am I missing common sense or what? Like, if I don't like heights, I'm not going to be a welder on a skyscraper in New York City, huh? Does that
Yeah.
make
Or a tree
sense?
trimmer. Yeah. Or a tree trimmer or anything else in heights. You're not gonna fly a
Right,
plane.
right. You're I think going to see me up on a roof tossing shingles.
Right, right. Or just
you
throwing a
know,
panel.
right, right. If I'm scared, if I'm a meek and mild person who gets scared at my own shadow, I probably shouldn't go to the police academy, right?
Exactly.
So I don't know. Again, I guess that's just me. Maybe other people think like that. I don't really know, but
But that's the same as like being a mayor. I mean, you can't run the town, but you want the money. So it really all just comes back to money.
of course, yeah, everybody's trying to get what they can while the getting's good, and a lot of times people go above and beyond, and try to get stuff that they're not entitled to or what have you not. And I mean, that's the story of the day almost every day on every news channel across America. So, I mean, well, what are we to expect? You know?
Well, eat your broccoli. Say you don't you think the fear is trained into the cops?
Oh, absolutely. No, 100% absolutely. They are trained with the mindset that every citizen they come in contact with could be a bloodthirsty lunatic who, just wants to smoke them, you know?
Right.
And unfortunately, that's hardly ever the case. If you know what I mean, like if you look at the statistics, I mean, it's a pretty safe job, considering, other professions like lumberjacks or cab drivers or something, and we don't hear about these guys whining all the time. I've never once heard of a cab driver that shot a guy reaching for his wallet to pay him, you know?
Right. Right. Right.
So it's the same thing with the fucking dogs, right? When was the last time you heard of a post office guy shooting a dog because the dog might have bitten them? You know what I mean? Like, how is it that thousands of post office men can go into yards with dogs every day and not have to shoot the dog? But yet
Right.
cops, every time they come across the dog, they got to shoot them for their safety. You know what I mean? Like,
Little bitch.
yeah, how big of a pussy do you have to be? I mean, I'm a dog guy. I love dogs, so regardless. But I mean, even if you don't like dogs, how much of a pussy do you got to be?
Exactly. Brandon Mitchell said, where did it go? Who or what inspired you to take a stand? I mean, you did tell us about the guy earlier. I forgot his
Yeah,
name.
Jeff Gray. Everybody knows Jeff Gray,
Oh, that's
but
definitely very good. He's
Yes.
very good. I like him.
Yep.
yeah, Jeff Gray and Joel Chandler and like I said, some of the incidents that took place down here, like the Dozier School for Boys, and just stuff like that, because there's obviously people in society that have no one, right? They have no family, they have no friends. Sometimes kids, uh, for whatever reason, parents die, they're drug addicts, whatever, and there's no one to speak for those kids, and those are the people that usually end up abused, like we saw at Dozier School for Boys. And I don't know, I can't help shaking the fact that if somebody would have like did some checking on those guys, like
Right.
record requests and pulled some of the numbers and just paid a little bit more attention, then maybe some kids might have got help.
Right. Right.
Who
Uh,
knows?
I know you guys did a whole piece on that. Any new
Wait.
updates? Like, have they found any more or?
No, they haven't found any more. They sold the property off.
Hmm.
They started demolishing the buildings.
Oh wow.
And I haven't been there in like a year or two. The last time I was there, I went inside some of the buildings. I took some video of the graffiti that, people had placed upon the walls there. But it's just such a depressing place. And but yeah, they want to tear it down. They want to forget about it. No one was ever prosecuted for the crimes, you
Right.
know. So
Well, and they have records of all that, so they can actually go. I mean, I'm pretty sure most of the older adults that were doing it are probably all passed away, but I mean, that could be a record and put it that they, I mean, we don't know who did what, but that could be the problem too, that they can't put it on them, but that's wrong for them to do that too. So I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Well, at least some kind of closure, say, hey, this was the person that did it. And, like you said, even if they're passed away because they're, such an age, I mean, I
I
can't
mean, but
imagine that person having a good reputation in town, because they don't feel like they need to put out his information because he's dead. You know what I mean? Like, fuck that guy. He
I
killed
mean, they
more
could at
people
least
than
do the
Gacy and
story.
Dahmer and everybody. You know what I mean? Like, whoever those guys were.
Exactly. But I mean, at the same time, how did they know? I mean, I'm sure they have records of it somewhere. How that person, lost his
Well,
life, and their
Well,
life.
they no, well, even if they don't have records of how they lost their life, I mean, this is a secure facility, right? So, like,
Right.
every night they have to do like a bed check, right? Because you can't have kids running off of this kid prison, right? It's got barbed wire. You can't just have kids running away, right?
Right.
So you got to be accountable for those kids. The state is actually like their legal guardian when they're in their care.
Right.
So, you go by one night and you're like, oh, little Jimmy's missing. Okay, well, yeah, no big deal, but then it gets to like 80 or 90 kids that they found, killed and raped and buried out there. So how do you get to 90 kids and be like, yeah, we're missing 90 kids over the last 3 years. No one knows where they went. There's no holes in the fence or anything. And,
Right.
like, how many people had to know about that shit, right? Because it's not just the guard counting the kids, right? Because he's got to put that report into his boss, right? His
Right.
boss, what happened to little Jimmy? Well, I don't know, boss. Oh, fuck it. You,
I mean,
you know what I
they have
mean?
to have
Like,
records.
right? Like, this shit didn't happen like that.
Right.
So,
I have
I mean,
a
but
I
then
mean,
again, they falsify police reports nowadays. They could have falsified all that stuff or back then too.
that would be possible again if it's not on the street, right? So, like, at any given time, you can request from like the Department of Corrections, like, inmate counts and stuff like this, and you can go back for years and years and years because they keep ledgers of all this stuff, right? So I'll give you a perfect example. When I was 16, I was in a halfway house in Orlando, and they
oh
actually
wow.
had, yeah, they had a ledger there as well. And in that ledger, they would write down everything, how many kids they had on the property that night. If a kid, went to a home visit, what time he left, what time he got back. I mean, everything was written down in these ledgers, and that was back in the 90s too. But yeah, these kind of things, they don't just slip under the cracks. There's some kind of documentation. And again, when I mean, think of it like this way. Like, think this kid is like a murderer, right? Let's say he murdered his parents,
Hmm.
right? And then, you're going around, you're doing bed check, and you find out little Jimmy, the murderer, is not in his bed. Well, you have to alert the community, right? Because little Jimmy, the murderer, is out here among you and common folk, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So where was the community notice that 90, you know, obviously troubled kids, they're in a kid prison. where,
Right.
where is the community notice that we've got 90, kids out here running around could be, raping, killing, murder, whatever they're drug dealing, whatever they're in for. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so no, this was definitely something that was, I would say, even more on the Epstein Island type tip than anything else,
What? Okay. What now? What do you think? What do you think right now? All about the one and currently splitting up. One side is fighting each other. What do you think about that? It's make you sad.
Well, it makes me sad, but to be honest with you, I try not to let it bother me because, you know, I came into the movement by myself. We all come into the movement by ourselves. We all work, by ourselves for the most part. Some of us, group up and go out with two or three people sometimes, or even all the time. But um, it's like when people say, "Oh, well, this guy, he's an auditor and he's giving auditors a bad name." I don't think that's possible for another man or woman to give me a bad name, right? Because my actions reflect myself and myself only,
Hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
if somebody
Agree.
else is yeah, if somebody else is out there acting a fool, or if two people in the community are fighting, and that doesn't affect me and my mission that I'm on, my subscribers, or what my plans have always been and will always be. So I mean, I continue about to doing my own thing, and that's fine.
One last question. I heard now I heard that asking people Social Security now. Social Security number. What do you think about that?
What do you mean, the hack that went on at Social Security?
No,
No.
no. Cops are asking Social Security now. Cards.
Oh,
He's
cops,
saying that
cops
the
are
cops
asking.
are asking for it.
Oh, well,
Yes.
I mean, first of all, there's no requirement that you give the Social Security number. There's no requirement that you carry the Social Security card on you, and there's no requirement that you memorize your Social Security number. So, as far as all that's concerned, I just straight up tell them I don't know it and I don't have it on me. So sorry.
That's one of the questions I have. Anything you want to add on? What's that?
Um, well, I was actually told not to ask you about it, but I'm gonna ask you anyways because I'm a rebel.
Yeah,
But
do it.
well,
Do it.
actually, because like I used to watch. I mean, I still watch your stuff, but I used to be heavy on everybody in Florida, and
Uh-huh.
I know you were working on a Roku channel, and I have a Roku TV, so I've been looking for it.
Oh yeah, no, we closed that down like a year or two ago because what had happened with that is I had invited a whole bunch of people to put content on it, and they were too busy really to you know dedicate themselves to it. So it just wasn't working out. So we ended up pulling the plug on it.
Okay, I mean, I just needed to know.
Yeah. Well, we try stuff and see what works and what doesn't work, and
Right.
sometimes we win and sometimes we lose. It's all about what you do after you lose. If you just give up or if you keep going about it. So it's the same way with auditing. A lot of people jump in it and they experience some losses, and they give up and they just kind of take their ball and go home. But other people spend their lives on it, win some, lose some, and they keep going on about it because it's what's right. Watching the government, making sure that they're spending our tax dollars wisely and following the laws that they make for us. I mean,
Right.
to me, that just seems like, good business, good common sense. You know what I mean? Like, if we're serious about having a country to leave to our kids and not just a big bill, I mean, we could just sit back and do nothing, and our kids and our grandkids could pay for it. I mean, if people are okay with that on their conscience, then cool. But
Right.
I'm not one of those people. I mean, hell, we can't pay the bills we have now. I can't imagine the bills I'm leaving my kids, or the country's leaving our kids, you know?
I decided not to have none for a reason. And it
And,
wasn't just because of government.
Why do
well,
you think all about the again? Why do you think all about Trump coming on again? Why do you think he wants to have more? He's talking about he wants police to get more what do you call it? What I said more
Immunity,
immunity.
qualified
money.
immunity.
Yeah, more
Well,
more.
yeah, like most politicians, they like to talk, but it's a lot harder than just talking about it, right? So something like that is not something that's Trump's to give. That's going to come from the legislature, if anybody. And again, I don't see it happening. It would have to make it through the legislature and the courts. So I really doubt that that's going to happen. But I mean, anything's possible. I mean, absolutely anything's possible. A new virus, martial law, you know what I mean? People quarantine in their homes, anything's possible.
That is anything is possible. Except the DMV wouldn't let her put her hair pink.
Wow. You guys have any questions on Org Nation? Anyone? You could
Yeah, take
echo up to
questions
me.
from the
You could
chat
answer
if
questions
anybody
in the
has any
chat.
in the chat. And
Yep.
let me say shout out to everybody in the chat. I haven't been able to see the chat, but thank you everybody for being here with Gregory's channel.
Well, does
There
all
was
have questions?
one, but I think I asked it when I saw it came through. Brandon Mitchell says, "Is Hate the State still locked up for all the stupid shit he did?"
Last I heard, he was in a halfway house and doing good. So he's not locked up in prison anymore. He's in a halfway house, but I don't think he's going out auditing or anything of that nature. I think he's keeping his nose clean,
Gotcha.
which I got to say, good for him. He put out some funny content back in the day, but he went a little overboard. And so,
Gotcha.
you know, again, it's everybody's right to
Act the
do
fool.
what they want, but there are consequences for everything. So
Okay, guys, thank you for coming. And Org Nation, thank you for coming to my channel for the
yeah,
time.
buddy. Yeah.
Thank
Well, I
you, Westside.
appreciate you guys having me. Yeah, thanks for having me. I
And
enjoyed
guys,
it.
don't forget to film the police.
Always film the police. Yeah.
Yep. Always for the police. Yep. Guys,
Yep.
take it easy. And you have a happy Friday the 15th.
Yep. Happy holidays. Bye.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Right.